I'd like to ask you all to help in reestablishing the cross-country course over at Phipps Bend and see if you can possibly help in persuading the joint venture committee and allowing our runners to run out there on the TVA wetlands in an area that's not currently being used. Before I begin, though, I'd like to go ahead and introduce some of these runners that are actually from Surgoinsville and attended Surgoinsville Middle School, and then went on, many of them, to Volunteer High School, and then we have one former collegiate runner here from Surgoinsville. Okay, so, all right, the first fellow is Brighetti. He holds many track records at Volunteer High School. He was all-state performer at Volunteer and later went on to East Tennessee State University, where he excelled, and he's graduated from ETSU, and he's a pharmaceutical rep at this time, and so we're glad to have Hayden here with us this evening. Next is Celine Mcnally. Celine has recently signed a scholarship at Tusculum University, where she'll attend next year. She's a senior right now at Volunteer High School, and her current events are the 800 meters, the 1600 meter run, and 3200 meter run. But once again, Celine will be at Tusculum University next year. Next is Charlie Wilson. Charlie's from Surgoinsville. The last cross-country meet over at Danny Boone High School at the regional cross-country championships. He was our number 2 runner on the cross-country team. He's only a sophomore. He has 2 more years left. But once again, Charlie's from this community and had attended Surgoinsville Middle School. Next is J.C. Begley. J.C.'s a freshman. When she was at Surgoinsville Middle School, she qualified for state cross-country championships for the TMSAA cross-country meet. She's currently running track at Volunteer High School, and then cross-country, she was one of our top 3 runners at Volunteer, so J.C. Begley. Next is Roman Brighetti Metz. Many of y'all may have heard of Roman. He was a state champion in cross-country at the TMSAA cross-country meet this past fall, and he is from Surgoinsville. He's a state champion, and he's a tremendous runner. So I want to recognize Roman and his state championship accomplishment. And then we have Sabella Brighetti Metz, and Sabella also qualified for the TMSAA State Cross Country Championship this past fall. So all of these folks are from Surgoinsville. They excel in the sport of cross country. The 2 oldest ones, one went on to college and graduated and ran collegiately at a Division I level, and then Celine will be at Tusculum University next year. So we have state champions here. We have collegiate runners, and we have folks that are still in middle school that we look forward to having at Volunteer here in the next several years. So I'd like to recognize several others. We've got Tony Burgetti. You may have seen Tony run the roads here in the area, and he wins all kinds of, I guess, honors.
And he's older than I am.
Okay. but Tony runs these roads frequently and runs in the Phipps Bend area. And we also have Benny Wilson. Benny frequently runs a lot of these road races, and he's done an outstanding job supporting our team and supporting the community. And then we have Chad and Stephanie Metz. They currently coach at Surgoinsville Middle School in track and cross country. And one of the reasons why we're successful at Volunteer High School is because we have a tremendous feeder program. And they train and develop these athletes, and then they go on to do extremely well at the high school level. So did want to recognize those folks. Just kind of want to give you a little bit of history about what has transpired over in the Phipps Bend area. We had established 2 cross-country meets in the fall of 2016. One meet was referred to as the Flying Falcons Cross Country Classic, in which we had middle school runners and high school runners that had participated. We had runners all the way up in the Southwest Virginia that had traveled down to the Phipps Bend area to compete. So that meet went extremely well. And then Cherokee had hosted the IMAC Cross Country Conference Championship, and that was held also at the Phipps Bend Cross Country course. We had teams all the way down South Doyle and Knoxville that had attended. So, you know, we had teams that we had attracted from Southwest Virginia all the way down to Knoxville. And a lot of people didn't know, you know, about Phipps Bend or Surgoinsville and this particular area. So, you know, we had a lot of people visit, and I thought that was a real good thing. Shortly thereafter, we had I guess a presentation from a fellow by the name of Bob Schul. In the 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games, Bob Schul won the Olympic gold medal in the 5,000 meters. And he was gracious enough to travel down to our area. We had a big luncheon at Cooper Standard. They allowed Mr. Schul to go ahead and present and speak. We saw a video of his race, which he went ahead and explained, you know, what all had transpired during the race in order to win the gold medal. And then we went and proceeded over to the course itself, and we had a blue ribbon cutting ceremony, and things went, you know, really, really well. And but however, in March of 2017, I traveled over to the course just to see how everything was, and I discovered that there was a lot of vehicular traffic, four-wheelers that had driven all over the course. You could see the course kind of went along the tree line, and you could see where the grass is along the tree line, then you could see where those ruts are. So it pretty much just tore up that whole course in that particular area. Now, one of the reasons why that happened was there were no gates that would prevent folks from driving into that area that I'm referring to. So, you know, with all the time and effort that I put into, you know, trying to get that course established, I was pretty much deflated after I saw the condition of the course. So really, over the next several years, I've approached the joint venture committee, which is comprised of folks, you know, here in Hawkins County, mostly out of Rogersville, Kingsport, TVA out of Knoxville, and at times representative of the TCAT Center out of Morristown. And I approached them about possibly establishing a course the first time over by kind of the nuclear, what do you call it, the tower, you know, that particular base, and, you know, had wanted maybe establish a course out there. It was shared with me that just wasn't possible. And I, you know, stated from the onset that, you know, we by all means don't want to impede industry from coming into that area, but if that land is not being used, you know, could we utilize that area? I had a guy by the name of George Watts, who's the director of track and field at ETSU. He came out and looked at that particular area because at the time he was maybe wanting to host the Southern Conference Cross Country Championships. He was trying to find an area. So there's a need, you know, for something like this. And it was conveyed to me, you know, during that meeting that, you know, it just wasn't going to be possible. I will say 2 months later that there was an article in the Kingsport Times News that then Kingsport wanted to go ahead and implement a cross-country course where now the Miracle, I believe Miracle Field is currently located. So at one time they wanted to have cross-country after they had shared with us that we couldn't. You know, you know, but since that time, their plans have changed. I had been out there 2 other times since the one time that it was the course by the tower was turned down. The second to last time when I went to the joint venture board, that was in February of 2020. And that was right before the pandemic. So, you know, we had discussed the same course. You know, this course layout is by the TCAT Center and it would start up by Phipps Bend Road. And then the starting line would go down here, right along the tree line by Stony Creek, and it would loop around. None of this area is being used. This is all wetlands TVA area. And it would loop around. It would bypass the service road. The service road is currently used by horseback riders, so we wouldn't interfere with them. Okay, and then it would loop back around, and one lap would be about 1.5 miles, and that would be fine for a middle school race. And then if they went around again, there would be 2 laps, and this has been measured by the fella that does this, measuring layouts for road races or cross-country races. But this would be a 5K, a 2-lap course. And why that's important, for spectators, it would be spectator friendly, okay? The spectators could go on this particular property, or the coaches, and they could run back and forth and cheer on their athletes. The other positive thing about this course is that there's parking, and that's a lot of times an impediment for establishing a course, but this area has plenty of parking. And then the other 2 other things. This course is flat, okay, and you don't find too many flat courses in northeast Tennessee area. And then the last thing is it's accessible from the 4-lane. So this is ideal. This could meet the needs of not only the middle school runners and the high school runners, but we could host meets for elementary runners, AAU athletes, and I think this would be a great thing. I went ahead and I did some research on you fellas, and I looked up who was the sitting alderman at this time, and the question Mr. Bobo had asked was why do you guys want to do this? And really the answer was to help the citizens of Surgoinsville, to establish parks and areas to ride bikes and things like that. And this is something that you guys could help us with. I think if you could help me persuade this joint venture board of establishing something that the community really needs. I mean, I've got some support from businesses. I've got funding, that could come in from businesses. I've got, of course, the running community behind me, and I think the citizens of Surgoinsville and Churchill ought to have a say in what happens in their own backyard regarding the Phipps Bend area. I'm here today to ask for your support to see if you all could possibly help me in persuading the joint venture board to go ahead and re-look at this area of need. And I'm going to say another thing, and Mr. Graham, you said I could take all the time I needed. Volunteer High School, if you go into our gym and you look at the banners, do you know what is the last year that one of the banners has on it? It's 2005. Okay, we don't have a banner up in that gym since 2005. And a lot of what happened was we were reclassified at that time, and we moved up to the large classification, and because of that, it's been a fight every year for our kids over at Volunteer. Next year there's a reclassification, and we're going to move to classification at our high school. And why is that important? Because we have an opportunity to qualify 2 cross-country teams, the boys and girls, to the state championships next year. And, if we train them right and if they're motivated, we got a shot. We got a chance maybe at doing something that would be very special, and that's winning a state cross-country championship. We've done it. Individuals already done that from Surgoinsville. So, we have the ability to do that. We just got to put the time and effort into that, and into our discipline, and get out and put the miles in. But I just I appreciate the time. I'm just trying to speak from the heart here, but I know you guys, and I know you guys want to do what's best for these kids, and I ask that you help in this endeavor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim. And I would like to say to the athletes that's here, you've done well, and we really appreciate you and the hard work that you've done and so on. And the meeting you were talking about at Cooper Standard, I was there, and with Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, sir.
And when this thing got started, and I just want to assure you that the town of Surgoinsville will be behind this 100%. Anything that we can do, and we will certainly. We will. I'll need a motion and a second, and we will approach the venture board up there to reconsider this, and in this motion, we will certainly state that we're behind you, and we would like for them to reconsider their stand on this and make this possible for these young people and for the cross-country team and so on. And anything that I feel like we can do, we certainly need to do that. We owe it to them. They worked hard, and so many other kids that aren't here have too, and down through the years, and so we will certainly do that. I just feel like we really need to, and I really appreciate the effort that they've made today coming here, and by their appearance, asking that this joint venture board listen to them and consider them, and we certainly do. And, so. Again, I thank all of you. Has anyone else got anything to say?
Jim and I go back a long way. We did, and I know the hard work that he put in when he worked for the town here back many years ago. And he worked tirelessly for a small amount of money. And back then too, his desire was for the kids to do good. And I appreciate him and we've been friends for, I guess, 20 years, haven't we, Jim?
Yes, sir.
And with that being said, I make a motion that we do this, and I'll ask Joe if he will make the like what you said in before the meeting, that I'll ask that you word the motion, okay?
That the board resolved to support the hard efforts and the successes of Surgoinsville runners, and encourage the other political jurisdictions in Hawkins County to do the same and support these athletes in their efforts and in their successes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, and we will have it in writing and so on, that you can see whenever you'd like to. But anyway, it supports what you're doing, and we want to show 100% that we're behind these kids and what they're wanting to do. And I think it's a good place, an ideal place up there, and surely to goodness, something can be worked out for these kids. But anyway, we've got a motion and a second, and let's just do a rough call vote.
Okay. Alderman Summers,
Yes.
Alderman Collier,
Yes.
Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jernigan.
Okay, so we will be putting that in writing, and
Are you going to approach Churchill and Mount Carmel?
I think I will. Yes, sir. Is that your recommendation?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I want to thank you for what you do, Jim. Every one of you.
As a parent, I want to appreciate Jim for what he does.
For the time and everything you put into their kids. The kids are our future, so.
Well, we can't do enough for our kids. I mean, all that we can do, and it's still not enough.